Okay, this is the Panasonic RX-ED55, which I've just replaced the belts in. I'll put a link to that repair video in the description. But I've been having a little play with the cassette decks, and I think it's really clever how they've made a single motor design run two cassette decks. I mean, I know the only reason they've done it is to keep the cost down. I mean, the motor's likely to be a fairly expensive component. If they can get away with only installing one motor instead of a separate motor for each deck, then that's going to cut their manufacturing costs. So that's the only reason they've done it. But I still think it's really ingenious how they've made the single motor drive the two cassette decks with different operations on each deck. It's also interesting the simultaneous operations that they've restricted because it's a single motor mechanism. I mean, if I start, say, deck 2 playing, and I try and start deck 1 playing at the same time, obviously it stops deck 2 first before it starts deck 1. I mean, that's obviously completely logical. Most twin cassette decks will do that. If deck 1 is playing and I eject deck 2, it briefly mutes the audio from deck 1, and I think the reason they've done that is because ejecting deck 2 will put additional load on the motor. So it might slow the motor slightly, which you'd hear if it left deck 1 playing. It doesn't stop deck 1, it just briefly mutes the audio. So if I do that again, you see it just briefly mutes the audio as it ejects deck 2. What you can do is fast wind deck 2 and simultaneously fast wind deck 1. It'll let you do that, but it won't let you play deck 2, say, and fast wind deck 1. It stops deck 2 playing when you try and fast wind deck 1. And again, the reason for that is the winding operation is probably going to place load on the motor, so it would slow down the playback of deck 2, and you'd notice that. So I just think that's a really clever design, how they've got the two decks to operate completely independently, but with a single motor. Thank you very much for watching.